My name's Gary Howes. I'm from the UK Garrison. We're going to do a little talk about costuming and what we do and why we do it. We're going to have a few special guests on the stage. And at the end, we'll answer some questions, if that's all right. Is everybody up for that? Please say yes. If you don't say it louder, I'm going home. Say yes.
Yes!
Wow, you're hard work, you guys. I'm going to start off with, who's seen Star Wars? Anyone? Who has seen Star Wars?
Yeah.
I know it's like 4:45, but let's have some energy. It's the end of the day. They've saved the best till last. You can agree with that if you want. They've saved the best till last.
Sure we have.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to start off with those of you who've seen Star Wars. Who knows what a Stormtrooper is?
I do.
Big round of applause for our Stormtrooper, please.
He needs the reassurance he never hits his target.
Who, me or the Stormtrooper? This is the traditional, A New Hope Stormtrooper. Very different to the ESB Stormtrooper, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi Stormtrooper, and even different to the Rogue One Stormtrooper, which is supposed to be the same timeline. What people don't realise about Star Wars is that it actually was relatively a low-budget movie, and George Lucas struggled to get it made. And as such, a lot of corners were cut. People had to do things to make things look bigger and better than they were. And what we've done in what we do, we've tried to recreate what you see on screen. Now, this is pretty much as accurate as you can get. And with the advent of Blu-ray and the various books and everything else, we've been able to really explore the real differences. The Stormtrooper armor overall is vac-form plastic, exactly as it was in the original film. A guy called Brian Muir, who was a sculptor, did lots of Bond movies, many films over the years. Brian Muir sculpted the armor, put it together. It's made up of various parts that are trimmed out to cut the individual trooper. What most people don't know is all the little bits and pieces on the armor that you will see in every day. The actual blaster itself, they wanted something to look futuristic, but they didn't have the budget to have something custom made. So this is a Sterling machine gun. Pretty much you'll have seen in many war films, many gangster movies from the 60s. Only to make it look different, they added different bits to it. This part on the side here, which not a lot of people know, may I take it off you for a second? If you look at this way, you might see, I know you guys are quite a long way off, but it's got numbers on the back. This was out of a pinball machine, and it's what they call a Hensler counter. It was added on the side to make it look more futuristic. And the pieces here, which cover up the vent holes for when it was an actual submachine gun, are draw runners out of kitchen units, which they just glued on to make it look different, make it look a little bit futuristic. Electrical capacitors, a little rod to put a tank scope on, and suddenly you had a very different looking blaster. Now the armor itself and the helmet, as I said, are made of vac-form plastic, all put together in various parts, and the joins are covered over with strips like this to make it look seamless, to give it that look. If I can get you to turn around. A lot of things in Star Wars were made up of plumbing parts and various bits and bobs. In the movie industry, pieces that you find from real life and turn into a costume piece, like the pieces on the blaster and like the... Good afternoon, sir. Everybody's a critic, seriously. They use a lot of plumbing parts, including the thermal detonator on the back here is actually made up of a drain pipe, and it's just literally a standard drain pipe. They cut up, stuck on the back, vac-formed a piece over the top to make it look more interesting, cut out 2 bits of aluminium to glue it on so that it would stick to the back of the belt. Turn around for me, sir. The boots were original, just Chelsea boots, spring-side boots at the side. They were actually made by a company called Stewart. They got the boots, bought them in bulk, painted them white with just regular emulsion paint. If you look at the movie on the Blu-ray, you'll see most of them have the black showing through from where they painted them, and they constantly on the movie were painting them up. As I said, the movie was quite low-tech, low budget at the time. The armor, they could make 50 sets of armor. That's pretty much all they could afford at the time. So if you look hard enough, you will see, particularly here on the sides, where these things were covered in duct tape. Now, I happened to work on one of the later movies. I had the real privilege of doing that, and still, in the later movies, the armor was still held together in various places with duct tape and glue and whatever else they could to do it. If I could ask you to move to one side for me, sir. This is our biker scout. we got the bike up over there if any of you want to go over and have some photographs with it, which was custom made by one of our own members, sculpted from scratch so that you guys can get some fun and have some pictures with it. And at the same time, if any of you are interested, we're helping to raise money for the charity that they've got going on today. It's Homes and Help for Children, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, I thought I got that right. Okay, the Bike Scout, very similar in it's made up of ABS plastic, although this helmet I think is, oh no, it is ABS plastic, which is what the originals were made up with. As the film evolved, they realized the first trooper didn't have the movement that they really wanted. The armor actually was very restricted. They had to cut bits out to make the move. So they made these things more flexible. If a guy's got to ride a bike, he's got to get over it. The armor is much less. There's much more soft armor on this. The helmet, but they kept the same style, the same Imperial look throughout with the white. And it was always quite interesting that it was the good guys that were in white. There was only one bad guy, and we'll come to him in a minute. The blaster is one of the rarer large guns that the bikers have, but they used to, I don't know if you've got one on your holster, no you don't. They usually have a small blaster just on the boot holster here that they can use when they're riding the bike. The boots were kind of like a Timberland boot, custom built up with vinyl on top, just to make them look like something different. Everything was made to look practical. So in Star Wars, one of the first movies, sci-fi movies, where they made the place look dirty. Before that, every sci-fi film you saw, everyone wore shiny suits made of silver and all looked clean and whatever. These guys looked like they actually worked for a living and were actually soldiers and were actually out there chasing people. And this is reflected in the dirt and the burns and the scorches on the armor. Again, because they try to make everything as realistic as possible as you can for a sci-fi movie. The hump on the back is aerodynamic. It also kind of works in various different ways. The pouches on the side are loose. Unlike the belt boxes on here, they're slightly bigger, so they're slightly more practical. And we have a similar theme here with the thermal detonator on the back. If I can now ask you to stand over there. Now, I believe we have a Sith Lord in the audience somewhere. If you could all please stand and show some respect. And a big round of applause for our Darth Vader today. I said a big round of applause. Give him a big cheer. This is Samuel. Samuel here is a friend of the Garrisons. We've known him for a little while, haven't we, Samuel? If anybody sees him anywhere, do not call him Sam. You think I'm kidding. If you call him Sam, this comes into play. Isn't that right? I'm not going to call you Sam. Samuel. Samuel is a kind of an honorary member of the Garrison almost. We have something called the Galactic Academy. So everybody who's under 18, our club itself only for over 18s for various reasons, but we have the Galactic Academy that accommodates people who are under 18. Samuel is an honorary member with us. He's a cool costumer, I'm sure you'll agree. He totally looks the part.
He terrifies me, I'll say that much.
Thank you. I said he totally looks the part. Thank you. And he's done us a real favour, and it's a real honour to have him on stage with me. We have met before, haven't we, Samuel? Thank you. And I would like you to give him a big round of applause for being so brave to come on stage for us today. Thank you, Samuel. Oh, Samuel, I think your dad's here. Now, as you can see, Samuel is slightly more accurate than our own Darth Vader. Just kidding, sir. Darth Samuel, as named by Lord Vader himself. Lord Vader, would you step forward, please, sir? As you can actually see with Darth Samuel, I'm going to bring Darth Samuel alongside here for you. Everybody knows why they've got red lightsabers? Because they're Sith. Have you seen the movies? Yeah. Has anybody seen the movies? Yeah. You've seen, they're evil, yes. Supergirl says they're evil. Supergirl might be related to Darth Samuel. I'm not giving anything away there. As you can see, even though Darth Samuel is not quite as tall as our Darth Vader, Lord Vader as we like to call him, you will notice that his costume is fairly accurate. The box on the front, these here, again, as I said, everything was kind of low budget. What a lot of people don't notice when they look up close, these pieces here, has anybody played on a pinball machine? So these little slots here were where you put the coins through, the little metal slots at the front. They were literally, that's what they used. All of these switches were found things. As I said earlier, I think I said earlier, anything that they used in movies that was a household or a regular item that they customized and used for something else, generally known as greeblies. Repeat after me, greeblies.
Greeblies.
It's such a good word, isn't it? Our Lord Vader here today, everything about him is pretty accurate. The suit is leather, it's very, very hot to wear. Dave Prowse, when he was wearing it, I mean, he had to take lots and lots of breaks because he would overheat. The helmet encompasses all of the head. There is not a lot of room in there for him to breathe and keep cool. I'm not sure if our Vader has fans. Do you have fans? Most of the guys who do this and will get out for most of the day will use fans to keep themselves cool. It just keeps their air moving. The costume is made up of a cape here, as you can see. The big armour piece across the top, which, is that okay, Lord Vader, do you mind me showing off? Which is made of 3 parts, the main centre chest piece and 2 shoulder bells. The chest box, which is bolted on to a belt and around over a kind of vest type thing. The belt itself has 2 electrical boxes on the side. These light up, as you can see. Then there's like an under cape thing here, again making this costume even warmer. Regular boots covered over with shin guards on the front, which give him more of that Imperial look. The breathing was actually added on post in the movie, although our guys have found their own, everybody has their own way of doing this, but have their own way of presenting that so that when you meet them, you still have that sound. Lord Vader, would you speak for us, please? I don't know if you heard that because I'm probably holding the mic in the wrong place, but he has his own way of creating, and he has spent hours and hours practicing to get this so that when you meet him, it is like meeting Lord Vader. May I ask you and Darth Samuel to stand on one side? I'm going to have a big cheer for them both, especially Darth Samuel. So our rebel here today in an X-Wing pilot uniform, not unlike the gentleman who's wearing down there, very, very similar to the TIE pilot, slightly customised, but dyed orange as opposed to the TIE pilot that was black. The suit itself is then covered up. We've got a chest box, again, not dissimilar to the TIE pilot. I'm not sure how this man is breathing because that hose has come undone. All of this, these, again, as I said, plumbing parts, all added to make this look more impressive on screen and more like something you would use. And over the years, people like us have been geeky, spent ages watching movies, freeze framing the videos, the VHSs back when I first started doing this, then DVDs and now Blu-ray, so that we can get this as accurate as possible. We now know the colours of all of these things to the point that we can recreate them with the original paints, the original paint codes and stuff like that. We've actually sourced things to that kind of detail. The helmet is based on a Vietnam flight helmet with a piece added to the top mount. Again, this is not dissimilar to the TIE pilot helmet, except the TIE pilot helmet had a bigger mohawk down the middle. There's a lot of similarities between the two. The orange visor, which is a very distinct and very special colour orange, which we go to a lot of trouble to match. The boots are just like jack boots, German jack boots. And the various, these are like greeblies, again, things, buckles, straps and things like that, added on to give the costume more of an impressive look. And it is a pretty impressive costume. The gloves are just kind of like RAF flight gloves. And underneath here, if I can just peel that back, is what they call the compad, which is very similar, in fact, exactly the same as what the TIE pilots have on their wrist, but they're painted up in different colours. Nobody really knows what they're supposed to do, presumably to get information to and from one place to another, but it works. Little pieces of aluminium, again, these are just plumbing parts added on and bolted to the suit, although his breathing equipment is completely shot. I'm very worried. Oh, and up here, aluminium spun pieces just to make the costume look more realistic, and these are very accurate to what the movie is. We actually had a person research this, I don't know if you can see that, and we have them made, custom made for us so that they're exactly the same as what you would see in the film. Anybody know who this is?
The bad guy.
Del Rico.
Who is it?
Imperial Squad, Del Rico or Iden Versio.
Oh, give that man a cigar. Iden Versio, very similar to the TIE pilot, Battlefront 2. The helmet itself is based on a Rogue One TIE pilot helmet, which is slightly different to the A New Hope TIE pilot. And not a lot of people know this, although the TIE pilot did feature in more than one movie, they were actually only shot in the original trilogy for A&H, and then pieces were used, they used old footage for later films and just recut them. which you can notice it was cut scenes that were later reused or scenes that were actually just overused again. There are repeat scenes. The armour itself is again like the original TIE Pilot, except in this, like the game, there are flashing lights and electronics which are fitted inside the chest box. In the original movies, they didn't have any kind of lights or anything like that, so our guys represent the original movies, they don't have any lights in theirs. The boots are slightly different to the jack boots that the original TIE Pilots wore, and slightly more fitted and slightly more officer-like. We have all the red detailing on the side to match the game. The back plate is very matching to the original Stormtrooper, which they call, or lovingly call, affectionately call, would probably be a better word, OI, O-I-I, and it's referred to as the OI decal on the back of the armour. This is all custom made because it's making stuff from the original movies. We've managed to source stuff. People have got original parts that they've recast, reused, and whatever. When you start doing stuff with a game, you have to start from scratch because you haven't got a tangible, real item to go from. So people design this, sculpt it, mold it, build it, change it until they get it as close to what the game would be. And actually, we in the 501st, when the second trilogy came out, the clones were all digital. They were all CGI. We found a way of making them work. People had to engineer to find a way of making the armor seamless, making the armor work. It's very easy if you're doing a computer program. You can easily make these things move and shift around. We actually found a way of making them work so that we could represent that, so we can continue playing Star Wars and having fun. Very much in the same way with this. This has had to be custom made to match the game. When you're designing something for a game, you can design what you like wherever you want, and it can move any which way you want. To replicate that in real life is very difficult, and people have sat down and spent hours, days, months, weeks, even years to some degree, to actually make those represent in real life. This is a TL50. I got that right. They all have money on me getting that wrong. This is a TL50. Again, it's a custom weapon. It's 3D printed, so someone had to sit down and make a file for that so that it could be printed. There are some homage pieces of this that are like other Star Wars guns, very similar, so that it still sits within the same universe, but it is very unique to Ida. The gloves, very similar to the original TIE Pilot. And last but not least, you turn out the holster is the same as the Empire Strikes Back Stormtrooper, which is slightly different because it has the loops on the top, whereas the A&H, the A New Hope one, had it bolted behind and was just two straps. This is an Imperial Officer as seen in A New Hope. The costume originally has very similar to German Second World War army military costumes. It's to create that feeling of being a bad guy. The tunic itself was borrowed from another movie, and I can't remember what it's called. Fahrenheit 451, it had gone straight on my brain there. The original black tunics, they literally stole from another movie. Customized them a little bit, but they were basically the same tunic. Added the boots, the joppers, and the belt. Most of the Imperial soft costumes, like the officer, the crewman and stuff like that, will all have this belt, which has a disc in the middle, which is a very Imperial, it's a symbol of the Empire as far as the belt's concerned. What it actually is record players have come back in fashion, right? Who's got a record player? So in a record player you can change speed, right? So the little thing inside the record player that changes the speed, the belt goes round, is this. This came out of a record player. The boxes on the side are made of metal. Not all of the officers in the movie had them. Most of our officers, including this young man here, match an officer on screen, and that will go with their rank bars. This signifies the rank that they are. This here, may I take that out? This here, which you will see in a lot of the officers, and I'll just show you there, was actually what they call a dosimeter, and it's for detecting radiation. And they literally put them in the top like that, and depending on how many you had and where they were and stuff like that, they signified different things. The rank bar was made up of literally an aluminium bar with the fascias of electrical switches. They just took these out, glued them on the top, and decided which ones. And they all have, if they didn't at the time, they now have a significant rank, although we've matched them up to people in the movies. So if someone's referred to as an admiral in the movie or a captain or whatever, we've matched the bars that they were wearing and make the assumption that if there's a theme, then a captain is XXX and so on and so forth. There is a whole list of them. The boots are regular riding boots, leather. The gloves and the back are all cut in and tailored so that it's like an officer, very much like a second officer, only more evil, I think, to be quite frank. Turn around for me again. I'm going to ask now our officer to bring the prisoner on. Can I have a big round of applause for Chewbacca? What can I say? You know, there's not a lot you can say about Chewbacca that you lot don't already know, apart from the fact he's a little bit taller than I am. What you don't know is the guys that do this costume, and this is pretty spot on, and you know, Peter Mayhew would be proud, actually sit at home and make these things up from scratch. This is not something you buy. You buy the material and you hand sew these things and stitch this stuff in so that you create this very, very, very lifelike hair. What I would advise is you don't ever invite them around your house because you'll be hoovering for weeks, absolutely weeks. This costume would have probably taken at least 6 months, possibly a year and a half. I know at least one guy took nearly 2 years to put his costume together in between doing everything else, because it is literally, they stitch these things on and it's a very, very specific skill. It takes a lot of work putting it together. And then to create the character, learn how to walk. You probably don't believe it, but he isn't really this tall. The satchel, I've had a couple of people say to me today, Chewbacca didn't have a satchel. And my argument to that is you've not seen the film, because yes, he did. Everything on our Chewbacca here today is accurate to the movie, the bowcaster, including the scope, which was, if I remember correctly, off of an air rifle. Technically, it's a greeblie. If you look on the side here, you'll see the curly wire. Who remembers the old-fashioned phones and headphones? Right, the curly wire on the side, that's pretty much what it was. Again, it was added for effect. Chewie, pretty much, it speaks for itself. The mask itself takes ages to construct and to create that face shape and that look based upon what they want. They stitch the hair in, and it takes a lot of upkeep. There's a lot of work involved in the Chewbacca costume. So when you see them, please respect them. Please remember that they've done a lot of work to make you smile. And to be quite honest, they're one of the characters that whenever we bring to any event, there are always smiles on their faces. Anybody know who this is? Boushh, which is actually Princess Leia. Although Boushh was a character, Princess Leia stole the costume, so there is a character called Boushh. This costume is incredible, to be quite frank. It's a very difficult costume to make. It's a very difficult costume to put together. It looks so simple, and it's actually so complicated because of all the details. All of these little details on here, many of which are from model kits, Airfix kind of model kits that you used to buy for trucks, aeroplanes, etc., etc., all went together to make up these little pieces along with various other bits of aluminium strap and everything else. And our Boushh here today is as accurate as you can possibly get based upon the one you see on the movie. The boots, the leather trousers, the voice, everything is exactly the same as what you see. And we've been able to do that because of the advent of Blu-ray and some of the books that have subsequently been released. And also, we've become friends with some of the designers and stuff over the years because of what we do and the work we do with charity and stuff like that. And they've actually given us helping hands and pointed us in the right direction. We have the thermal detonator in Boushh's hand. The leather gauntlets that are all custom made. I'm going to come around this side. Again, we've got a lot of the kind of canvas strap and leather belts and things that make the costume look kind of livable, workable. And she is, after all, a bounty hunter, so she needs a weapon. That's a very big weapon, and I wouldn't want to argue with it. It's custom made. We also, we also do in our club, we don't only do Star Wars, we do something called Real Icons. So we've got 3 parts of the UK Garrison. We've got the Imperial part, we have the Rebel part, which you saw with our X-Wing pilot. We also have the Real Icons part. If you've been over to our stand today, you may have met some of these guys. I'm going to start off with our Judge Dreb. Big round of applause for our judge. You won't believe it, this guy is started with us this weekend. It's his first weekend out with us, as I believe. He's worked like incredibly, so helped to raise us a lot of money over on the stand with a bike. His costume is pretty much the same as what you see. The vest, it's a very hot costume to wear, much like Vader, because it's all made of leather. The original costume designs were based on motorbike wearing. Judge Dreb, rides a bike. So if you go wander and speak to the audience while I just do the judge. Thank you, Ryan. Big hand for Ryan Reynolds, please. No, that is Ryan Reynolds. See, you don't believe me, do you? Ryan, sorry, Deadpool. I'll talk to you in a second. The costume is exactly to the design. Custom built, the eagle on the side, the vest, the badges, all of the armor at the back, all custom designed to match exactly what you will see in the movie. The most difficult part of the costume to put together is actually the belt, because it's made up of so many components. There is a knife, again, it's a Boca knife, which you used to be able to buy, they're like gold dust now. A med kit, which actually has the stuff in it. I'm going to close it, I'm going to let the flap open. There we go. We've got grenades, magazines, thermal detonator thing, and is that metal? And we've actually got the metal dread belt buckle. We've got the lawgiver here, which is pretty close to what you see on the screen. It's, I believe if it's the one, I think it is, it's based off of a cast of an original weapon. The whole idea of what we do is to have some fun, there's no question in that. Getting into costume, pretending to be someone else is a lot of fun, I guarantee you. I've been doing it now for probably 12, 14 years, something like that, various costumes. We raise a lot of money for charity. We get to meet a lot of really wonderful, cool people, like Darth Samuel over there. Darth Samuel, coolest guy, and all of you guys out there. We love new members. If any of you are interested in joining and getting involved, people say it's really difficult to get involved with the Garrison because we have high standards. We will help you. We will do what we can to make you a member and get you on board. It's the most fun you will have with someone else's clothes on, I promise you. Everyone here, just by definition, and you've sat through over half an hour of listening to me waffle on, you must be kind of into costuming. You must be into cosplay costuming. Are you? Yeah. We're the last talk today, so I don't mind overrunning a little bit. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time to put your hands up.
What's the most expensive part of the outfit?
Of which outfit? Of any outfit? Generally, one of the hardest parts to find on most outfits are the shoes or the boots. As for expensive, it varies. Different costumes have different parts. There are parts on the Stormtrooper, the original Stormtrooper. If you wanted to get a pair of the original Stuart boots and paint them white, like the actual ones, I have a pair myself that are exactly the same. You can pay anything up to £200 or £300 for those. But you can get a good quality replica that will be perfectly fine, that will match that and will be like, our TK is already gone, our Stormtrooper's gone, but like the Stormtrooper that you saw earlier, they're a reasonable facsimile of what the originals were, for about £45, £50, depending where you look, and you paint them white yourself, or you can get white ones, they're a little more expensive. But it varies from costume to costume. The most expensive part of any costume is time, because to get the costume right, you will spend a lot of time researching. Anybody, don't go out and just buy something off eBay and go, I want to do this. Do your research, find out, because sometimes you can get a much better costume for the same price just by doing a little bit of research. Ask questions, get onto forums, join us, join other forums. There's forums for the judges, there's places for bounty hunters and for Chewie and everything. If you need to know stuff, the internet is a wonderful resource. Please use it and look around. Don't just go and buy the first thing you find. And if you're not happy and you want to do something really seriously, set yourself a budget, set yourself a time, go out and do it. Anything, literally anything is achievable if you want it enough. And that's something I've always followed. I've many costumes I've wanted to do, and you just go out and you make it happen. And you can all do that if you want. And you all set your own standard. There isn't a right way or a wrong way of doing it. If you're having fun and you're having a good time, it's great, then it works. Any other questions before we leave you to it to enjoy the last part of today's show? Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today for UK Garrison. If you do have any questions for these lovely folks, do please go and see them. Remind us again whereabouts you are. Over that way. Do please give the UK Garrison the biggest round of applause you can muster.